So imagine for a second that you're running like the most advanced artificially intelligent pharmaceutical plant on Earth.
Oh, yeah. The kind with, molecular sensors and global supply chains reacting in milliseconds.
Exactly. And an absolute marvel of modern science. But, and this is the crazy part, when a regulatory auditor knocks on your door to actually verify that everything is working, you probably have to prove it using methods from like 1996.
Right. You're literally handing them these towering, heavy banker's boxes just filled with printed screenshots.
Yeah, printed screenshots, manual signatures, reams of paper slapped onto a wooden clipboard.
The dissonance there is just staggering. I mean, really, your core technology is mid-21st century, but your safety net, the compliance methodology, is totally stuck in this pre-cloud era.
Which brings us to the core of today's deep dive. So, welcome. We're jumping into the really complex, high-stakes pressure cooker of life sciences compliance today.
It's a fascinating space.
It really is. And our source material for this deep dive is this really insightful article by Omer Simon. He's the CEO of Validfor, and the piece is called Automated Validation Testing for Life Sciences, CSV.
And, for anyone navigating this world, CSV, which stands for Computerized System Validation, that is the immovable object.
Right.
It's this incredibly strict, mandatory process companies use to prove their software is, well, secure, consistent, and doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
And the pressure on that CSV process right now is just, it's reaching a breaking point, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because think about the architecture of a modern life sciences company. You've got ERPs managing massive supply chains. You've got LIMS laboratory information management systems handling all the local sample tracking, plus clinical trial platforms, quality management software.
Just dozens of cloud apps all constantly talking to each other.
Exactly.
And they're updating all the time.
Right.
Like Microsoft pushes an update or Oracle patches something, and suddenly your perfectly validated state is threatened.
Right. The environment is never static.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really figure out how organizations with these massive systems can speed up validation without, compromising on that strict compliance. Because relying on highly skilled engineers to sit there and manually click through test scripts, it's literally slowing down medical innovation.
It really is. And the obvious reflex for most people is to just say, well, automate it. Let the computers test the computers.
Right, which sounds great in theory.
Yeah, automation is the answer, but in these highly regulated environments, the implementation usually gets completely botched.
Oh, wow, really? Completely botched.
Yeah, because companies misunderstand what they're actually trying to do.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to fire your quality assurance team or, take humans out of the loop.
Right.
The goal is to clear the administrative bottleneck, remove the mindless repetitions so your human experts can focus on actual risk assessment.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before a team can write even one line of code, they have to know what they're automating. And the source highlights this massive pitfall right out of the gate.
But terminology issue.
Yeah. It all comes down to mixing up the terms. We have to separate automated testing from validation automation.
Blurring those two is literally where millions of dollars in compliance budgets just go to die.
That's a huge claim.
Yeah.
Walk us to it. What is automated testing exactly?
So automated testing is actually really narrow. It's just the mechanized execution of your test cases.
Okay.
You write a script, and a program clicks the buttons, enters the data, and checks the output. And it does it exactly the same way, 10,000 times in a fraction of a second.
So it's basically an execution tool. It's just about speed and consistency.
Exactly. It's just the mechanism of running the test. But validation automation...
Which is the other term.
Right. Validation automation is an entirely different beast. It's this much broader, holistic concept about how the entire workload is governed.
Wait, governed how? Like, what does that actually include?
Well, we're talking about requirements, traceability, risk assessment matrices, secure evidence capture, review workflows, deviation management.
Oh, okay. So it's everything around the test.
Yes. To put a finer point on it, automated testing asks, did the button work? Validation automation asks, do we have a secure, auditor-ready chain of evidence proving it worked, tracing all the way back to the initial patient risk assessment?
Let me try out an analogy here. So automated testing is like having a robot drive a car perfectly around a test track. It's precise, it's fast, it never gets tired.
I like where this is going.
But validation automation is the entire regulatory system. It's the DMV, the insurance, the safety inspectors, making sure the car is actually legally registered and approved for public roads.
What's fascinating here is how perfectly that isolates the danger of a bad rollout.
Yeah.
Because you can have the best robot driver or,
Yeah.
the fastest spinning gear, and your engineers might be thrilled because testing dropped from 5 days to 5 minutes.
Yeah, they're high-fiving in the break room.
Exactly. But if those test results aren't feeding into a compliant, structured framework, you're in serious trouble. Speed without governance in life sciences is basically a liability.
Because if you automate the test, but the evidence just gets dumped into some disorganized shared drive.
Which happens all the time, by the way.
Oh, man. And then approvals are just like an email chain where manager says, looks good to me. I mean, they'd fail an FDA audit, right?
Instantly. They haven't solved the compliance problem. They just generated a pass-fail result faster.
So they've basically automated the creation of their own non-compliance.
That is exactly what they've done. Mature teams know they have to build the regulatory framework first. You need an inspection-ready digital validation framework. And only then do you plug in the automated tests.
Okay, so let's follow that logic. Let's say you've got the framework, the governance is there. Where do you actually deploy these automated scripts to get the best ROI? Because you can't just automate every single click in a massive ERP system.
No, and you really shouldn't try. The ROI totally tanks if you try to script these nuanced, rare edge cases.
So what's the sweet spot?
Automation thrives on things that are highly repeatable, entirely rules-based, and, honestly, super vulnerable to human error. If a task requires zero human intuition but demands perfect consistency, you automate it.
And the source outlines 4 specific targets for this, right?
Yeah.
The big one, the heavy hitter, is regression testing.
Oh, regression testing is the ultimate pain point.
That's just proving that a new update didn't completely break something else in the system, right?
Exactly. Think about a cloud update. A vendor patches a security flaw in the database of your clinical trial software.
Okay.
Now, that patch shouldn't affect how a doctor enters patient data on the front end, but in these complex systems, code gets tangled.
Right. Everything is connected.
So in a manual world, a human has to sit down and rerun all those core workflows just to prove the patch didn't break them.
Yeah.
It is tedious, exhausting work.
But if you automate it,
You just execute a full system check overnight. Every single time a patch is pushed, it completely removes the fear of system updates.
that's huge.
Yeah.
And then the second target is access and permission checks, which sounds like a massive headache for global pharma companies.
Oh, it's a logistical nightmare. You have thousands of employees, external partners, contractors. You have to guarantee an intern can't accidentally release a drug batch.
Right. Or that a lab tech can't just browse the global financial data in the ERP.
Exactly, and doing that manually. A tester has to log in as the intern, try to click approve, take a screenshot of the error, log out, log in as the tech.
Oh my gosh, that would take weeks.
It does. But access rights are binary. A script can impersonate 500 users and verify their exact permissions in minutes.
Which flows perfectly into the third target data verification. Like if the ERP hands off a massive data set to the LIMS system.
Right, like a list of chemical compounds. You have to prove the handoff was flawless.
And a human checking a million rows of data is definitely going to miss a decimal point eventually.
Almost guaranteed. But a script can compare those massive data sets instantly and flawlessly.
And the fourth target is repeatable workload testing. Just standard operating procedures that never change their sequence.
Yeah, quarantine, test, review, release. If the steps are always exactly the same, let the script run it to make sure the system enforces that order.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We keep talking about how fast this is, right? Reducing weeks to minutes. But the article explicitly warns against making speed your primary metric.
It's a trap a lot of companies fall into.
Yeah, it argues that traceability matters infinitely more than velocity.
Traceability is the absolute bedrock of life sciences compliance. I mean, an auditor does not care that your test took 5 seconds.
Right, they don't care about your green check marks.
No, they care entirely about how you prove that result. They want to see the receipts.
The golden thread, as they call it. Can you explain how a digital framework actually maintains that thread compared to the old paper method?
Sure. So in the manual world, the thread is held together by, like, staples and sticky notes. Yeah. Your requirement is in a Word doc. The risk assessment is an Excel sheet. The test is a printed screenshot, and the approval is a wet signature.
And if one paper goes missing?
The thread breaks. The system is technically unvalidated, but in a proper digital framework, the thread is maintained by the system architecture itself.
How so?
The requirement is a distinct data object. When the automated test runs, it doesn't just say pass, it generates a unique cryptographic hash and a timestamp.
Oh, wow.
And then it automatically binds that timestamped evidence directly to the risk assessment. Then it routes an immutable report to the manager, who applies a compliant digital signature.
So the system physically prevents the thread from breaking.
Exactly. You literally can't lose a piece of paper because it's mathematically bound together.
Let's put the listener in the hot seat for a second. So
Yeah.
you're facing an FDA auditor.
Yeah.
And they say, show me the proof for that LIMS update you did 3 years ago.
In the old model, that's when the panic sets in.
Right. You're sending a team down to a warehouse, digging through dusty boxes, just praying a former employee didn't lose the binder.
But with a digital framework, you type a query, hit enter, and instantly present an unbroken, cryptographically secure chain of evidence.
And that's what actual audit readiness looks like.
Precisely.
But this brings us to a really critical pivot point. The humans. If the robots are doing the testing and the digital gearbox is handling the traceability, what are the validation engineers doing? Are they going extinct?
No. That fear comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what validation is. At its core, validation isn't software testing. It's patient safety and risk management.
Right, because a script can check a box, but it doesn't understand what happens to a patient if a drug batch is messed up.
Exactly. A script can't define your validation strategy when regulatory guidelines shift. And more importantly, when a test fails, when there's a deviation, a script can't decide if the system is still fit for use.
It just knows it failed. It doesn't know the context.
Right. Assessing acceptable risk requires human intuition, experience, and legal accountability.
I do have to push back hard on the implementation reality here, though, because the article points out that building this framework takes a massive amount of upfront effort.
It's not easy, no.
And these test scripts aren't magic. They're notoriously brittle. Like if a cloud vendor moves a button and 2 pixels to the left, the script just fails. Right.
Oh, brittle scripts are a huge pain point. If you're testing at the user interface level, every cosmetic change breaks your automation.
Right. So if a team spends all this time on architecture, and then they have to constantly rewrite brittle scripts and retrain staff on coding, aren't we just trading manual testing labor for manual coding labor? Like, does this actually save time?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you're hitting on the exact paradigm shift organizations struggle with. Automation doesn't eliminate the effort, it redistributes it.
Okay, redistributes it where? Upstream.
Yes, exactly. In the old way, a highly educated engineer spends 70% of their time acting like a robot, clicking screens, pasting images. It's a total waste of their intellect. So true. With automation, you shift their effort toward design and architectural control. Yes, the framework is hard to build. Yes, transitioning to, API-level testing, which doesn't break when a button moves, requires retraining.
But once you do it,
It's infinitely scalable. You build a regression suite once, maybe it takes a month, but then you run it 10,000 times over 5 years with zero extra effort.
so you trade the endless manual treadmill for long-term architectural control.
Exactly. And you free your experts to actually investigate anomalies.
The source also makes a great point about the compliance bar. Just because you automate doesn't mean regulators lower their expectations. You can't just have rogue engineers writing scripts on their laptops.
No, the scripts themselves become part of the validated system. They need version control, audit trails, and this is where you hit serious organizational resistance.
Why? Because it feels like a black box.
Yes. A quality manager likes a physical signature on paper because they can touch it. A digital hash feels abstract. It feels risky.
But you have to prove that a cryptographic timestamp is actually way more secure than a guy with a pen. I mean, you can forge a date on a clipboard. You can't forge a digital hash.
Exactly. Building that trust internally is just as important as writing the code.
Looking ahead, this shift moving people away from clicking screens and into lifecycle governance, that sets companies up for the next frontier. And we can't talk about the future without talking about AI.
AI is already embedding itself in these workflows. It's exciting, but it's also highly perilous.
Like using AI to read a requirements doc and automatically draft the test scripts?
Yes, or using it to spot hidden trends in global validation failures.
But there's a massive caveat here for life sciences.
Right. Transparency. In this environment, AI is only useful if it's completely transparent and strictly governed by humans.
No black boxes.
Never. An auditor will never accept the AI determined it was safe as an answer. The AI has to show its math, and a human must take absolute legal accountability.
So what does this all mean? If you're listening and you're staring down the barrel of scaling your complex systems, the takeaway is a shift in perspective. It's not manual versus automated. It's about achieving controlled digital validation. You build an environment where automation handles the repetition, the digital framework locks in your compliance, and your human experts are unleashed to manage complex risks.
This raises an important question, though, and I really want you, the listener, to turn this over in your mind.
Oh, I like a cliffhanger. Let's hear it.
We've focused on testing stable, predictable, rules-based software, right? We expect the system to do the exact same thing every time.
Right.
But we are entering an era where the computerized systems we're validating are becoming AI-driven and adaptive themselves.
Wait, like a manufacturing system that uses machine learning to change its own behavior based on new data?
Precisely. And the whole philosophy of validation is proving perfect reproducibility. So how do you prove control to an auditor when the software is fundamentally designed to learn and evolve? If the software changes its own rules, how do you validate the rulebook?
Oh, wow. Validating a thinking, moving target. That is the multi-million-dollar puzzle for the next decade.
It's going to require a totally new paradigm of continuous monitoring, and the digital frameworks we're building right now are the only things that will make that possible.
Well, that is a massive concept to leave us with. Thank you for walking us through the mechanics of all this.
My pleasure.
And for you listening, keep asking these tough questions. Challenge how your teams are structured, demand better traceability, and please, for the sake of your next audit, throw away the clipboard.